Welcome back, my lords and ladies, to the Cast Beyond the Wall. We're your guide to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, analysis, and fan v fan debate of each episode of HBO's hit show, Game of Thrones. This week, we're discussing the events of Season 6, Episode 8, No One.
No one likes this episode.
Oh.
I'm Austin Lucari. Guys, my wife has me on this diet I'm doing right now. And I can't have any drinks at all. I'm just drinking only water. And all I really want is some Imp's Delight, sitting in Tyrion's vineyard, just chilling. That's what I really want.
Want some of the Dwarven wine?
Yeah, dwarven wine. Yeah. Dwarves not known for their wine, but in Westeros, premium stuff.
All right. Well, my other co-host, sir, introduce yourself.
Daniel Stoll, and I have missed Braun so much. Like, I'm so upset that he's only been in 2 episodes this entire season. It was an injustice that he hasn't been in more of this.
I know, right? Huge injustice. And he was only in one scene this week.
I know. And it was one of the funniest scenes in the entire season.
Yeah, that's arguable. I think that's definitely a ground to stand on there. I do remind you, listeners out there, this year we're podcasting along with our friends and gracious host at the Good Trash Media Network. The Good Trash Media Network is a website dedicated to taking your experience watching TV and film beyond the screen and onto your listening device. Why? Because we believe that TV and film is so much more than just 90 minutes and a bucket of popcorn, or in this case, 60 minutes and a glass of Dwarven wine from the vineyard.
That's right.
You can track all of our posts on the Cast Beyond the Wall on Good Trash Media at facebook.com/Good Trash Media or on Twitter at Good_Trash. We are joined once again by guest hosts from the Good Trash Media Network. Ma'am, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Alexandra Bohannon, and Jamie plus Brienne equals love.
Oh, God. Guys, I don't know if you can see her face right now. She's smiling.
I'm a huge shipper of that pairing, so hard.
But what about Tormund?
What? No, fuck that shit.
Come on, Redbeard Santa Claus, man.
No, but the chemistry is there. The chemistry with Tormund is really awkward, verging on sexual,
real life.
salty.
It was
type.
I don't think Tormund wins that fight.
It was,
That's true. If Tormund tried anything, she would decapitate him, then castrate him, or she'd castrate him first and feed it to him, and then decapitate him.
that sounds pretty brutal.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty brutal. I could dig it.
yeah.
I could
That's
dig
the
it.
only fan fiction I ever want to read with them together.
Maybe you should write it.
No, literally.
You know what? I think I will.
Literally, I mean, Alex, I'm pretty sure literally you were on the edge of your seat saying, "Make out right now or die." Last night, it was.
I'm doing kissy hands.
She's doing the
each other.
kissy hands. We need cameras. Yes.
Yeah.
But okay. So that's it. We've got a Jamie Brienne shipper fangirl on the show this week.
Sure
This is the high quality guest I like to bring you guys every single week.
Absolutely. I'm the highest quality
Of
motherfucker.
fantastic. Now, Alex, you were on earlier this season.
I was.
And we had a great time talking to you about Daenerys being kick-ass, winning Dothraki love and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. But something I failed to establish in your episode was whether or not you'd actually read the books before. So go ahead and let our audience know out there, listeners.
Yeah, asshole. Good job. My experience with Game of Thrones is that I'm not a filthy book reader, actually. No, I've always wanted to read the books, but I started to read them, but then I didn't watch the show when I started to read them, and so I got really confused very quickly, and I stopped, which, I got a little turned off. It was really... Anyway, I do have high reading comprehension, I promise. But, and then how long have I been watching Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Let's see. I've been watching... Oh my God, I really haven't been watching that long, have I?
You caught up between seasons, right?
Right, yeah, so...
Bandwagoner.
Yeah, no, I was a bandwagoner. Last season was my first season watching as it aired.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I remember watching the first 2 episodes and I was really, really drunk off my ass, and I was like, I definitely can't understand any of this. But then I didn't catch up with it. Nobody I knew had a Habogo subscription, so I just kind of let it go. And then so after that, I went to grad school, and a buddy of mine's really into Game of Thrones, so we watched like the first 3 episodes in a bar, like just sitting at the bar, day drinking.
That's amazing.
Watching it at a bar, and then of
What
course,
bar were you watching it at? I want to go to that bar.
Jack's. We
Oh, my
watched it
God.
at Jack's. We just pulled up a laptop and watched it.
That's amazing.
And and titties and all. We did kind of like angle the screen away so that
Away from the public.
yeah,
The best kind of bar, from what I hear.
yeah, the titty bar.
The titty bar.
I mean, it is Game of Thrones we're talking here, guys.
Right.
So, I mean, all right. Well, Alex, thank you so much for filling us in there. Things you learn every single day watching Game of Thrones and bar. Well, I think it's time for us to go ahead and dive straight into this week's episode, No One. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I've gotten the hints that we've got some strong feelings about this episode, one way or the other. So we're gonna politely, in a timely fashion, talk about whether we like this episode or not. And you know what, Daniel Stoll, we're starting with you.
I definitely thought this episode had some strong points in it, but there also had some weak points too. And but the problem with this episode for me was I felt like the problems that I had with it were not because of the episode itself, but were because of what had been progressing throughout this entire season. And because of that, this episode happened to be the one episode that took the fall, in a sense. So while I do think that there are some really strong points, I can see that there are some scenes that were weak, but it's not necessarily because of the episode. It's more of because of how they've handled the season as a whole.
That's fair. So you're saying the problem therein lies is not with this episode necessarily; it's with the whole season. But we're just starting to see the issues of the whole season really come out in this episode.
Yeah, the way they've decided to build certain storylines up and when they've decided to deliver on them, I feel like hasn't been executed very well. And while at the beginning it felt like this was a really fast-paced season and was maybe trending towards one of the better seasons, I feel like recently has dropped off, and I don't know if it will be in contention for one of the best seasons anymore.
Alex, let's go ahead and move on to you.
Awesome. Yeah, after analysis, Daniel, I'm more in agreement with what you're having to say. I'm really, although except for the fact that you like this episode, kind of, I don't like this episode at all. But I do think that you are correct in the sense that what we have gotten so far this season from Game of Thrones has led us to this point so far in terms of the breakneck pacing, the constant name dropping in order to like retrofit main characters back in the storyline who were in like season 1, episode 3 or whatever. Like I feel like you're right in the sense that all of this shit is like finally becoming apparent in this episode and how it's not like problematic, it's just irritating and bad storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Austin, what do you have to say about this episode?
I thought the episode had some really good scenes in it. We got a good scene with Jamie. Got some kind of fan servicey points, which are fun, but not really substantive. Like we had with Danny, we had a little kind of killing spree there with the Hound. Felt very fan servicey. I still enjoyed it, but I can recognize that it wasn't really of consequence. The episode as a whole, not really a great episode, but again, I'm going to echo kind of the thoughts that Alex and Daniel both had. It's less to do with this episode and more to do with not really receiving the payoff, as Daniel put it, that we were hoping to get. I've been a fan of the pacing. I still like the pacing, honestly, but this has been a consequence of it. It didn't really seem to stop and consider its context. This season didn't. And as a result, when we start hitting the climax or the conclusion of certain subplots, they just weren't as satisfying as they should have been.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is the episode where I finally am making up my. I mean, the season's not done yet. We've got 2 episodes left, so I can't make final judgment.
We have 2 episodes left?
We have 2 episodes left.
Wait, I thought it was a 12-episode season.
No, 10.
What?
Yeah, there's only 2 more.
Oh my god.
Now, they're going to be 2 epic episodes.
Bandwagoner.
Oh, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 extra long episodes, but there are only 2 left this season. I've been kind of on the line about how the pacing has been for this all season long. It was kind of fun at first, but my complaints, and you can go back to me saying this in like episode 2 and 3, the shorthand storytelling where we just have, instead of having characters actually have monologues or have like these crucial character interactions, we'll have like someone say a line and then the camera will cut away and it's just left up to us to figure stuff out, which sometimes is okay. I'm not saying that's always a bad way to tell a story, but when you've been doing it time after time after time after time, I don't feel the character motivations almost don't make any sense anymore, and they're seeming very inconsequential. Arya's entire storyline, honestly, of the last 2 seasons, really at this point, pointless. Absolutely pointless. I mean, I guess she'll go back to Westeros with some cool skills, I guess. But a waste of time. And it feels like they didn't know what to do with her, so they had to have her out there doing stuff. Again, we'll get on to more, but I have some issues with the way despite really liking a couple of the Jaime scenes a lot, because I really did like them a lot, I have some pretty substantial issues with all of the River Run stuff. I have a lot of problems with the King's Landing stuff. Just all of these shorthand storytelling things where we're just left to just assume a lot of things. It seems very uncharacteristic what we've gotten in previous seasons, and it's really starting to rear its ugly head. And I feel like the sloppiness is really is very apparent in this episode. Alex?
Well, I mean, keep in mind what this season is. It's the first season where they're flying solo as it is, like the showrunners and the writers. We don't have like some big thing we can base all our plots on. They just have to go with it and set forth on the trajectory that has been lent to them from the stuff that has been established by George R.R. Martin and adapted. But I mean, I think it's symptomatic of what one of my best friends says is inexperienced showrunners who were given a project that maybe was a little beyond them in terms of scope and gravity, and now they're floundering and then having to cover up their ineptitudes with just shenanigans, I guess.
Fan service. Like a lot of the stuff they're giving us is it's like, oh, this is such a cool thing.
Yeah,
let's pay no attention to it.
The Hound is back, you know.
Yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't really, I don't like that, it doesn't have the impact it really should have had. And then like the first thing he does when he gets back is just goes and kills people with after he had this whole arc of giving up violence, all of a sudden he's just going to do it unapologetically, and I don't know.
I mean, let's call it for what it is. It is consistent with the theme of the episode. That was the whole point of the episode, was that people don't change.
That's what your opinion. That's what your opinion is. I think that's your opinion. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that.
I feel like Arya's still Arya. The Hound's still Hound. They're trying to say that Jaime is still Jaime. I'm not saying that that's the direction they should have gone. I'm saying that that's the point I think they were trying to drive home.
Well, I guess we'll have to talk that out through the episode. I'm not necessarily going to say you're wrong, because I can't disagree with you on whether or not that's what they were trying to do. It does feel that way a lot, and it's kind of upsetting that they would kind of reduce a lot of these characters to that. But hey, we'll go ahead and jump right into the episode and kind of hash out our specifics there. We're going to go ahead and start off at King's Landing. Now, Cersei she's finally tired of hanging out in the Red Keep, so she finally decides to summon Frank and Clegane to one-shot a dude and then and pull a fatality on him. You know, ripping that dude's head. I mean, the way he ripped that guy's head off.
Yes.
Was pretty fantastic.
I'm sad he didn't beat him to death with his own spine.
It would have been cool if that happened.
Yep.
And you know, it wasn't, and for some reason they didn't do it to cousin Lannister. What's his name? Not Kevin. Kevin's son. Little Lannister. Lancel, thank you. Lancel Lannister.
Are there really people named Kevin in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, Kevin.
That's his dad. Yeah,
that's Lancel's dad. Like the
Hand
dude,
of the king.
The Hand of the King right now. You know the guy at the throne who like turned Cersei away? That's Kevin Lannister.
That's such a very 21st century name.
Lannister.
Steve Lannister. Kevin Lannister.
Kevin Lannister. Let's get Bob Lannister
like
in there.
I went to high school with or something. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so that was a pretty awesome scene. We got to demonstrate the epic power of Franklin Clegane. Only for us to immediately find out that that Tommen is making it illegal for trial by combat, so her ace in the hole is worthless now. No trial by combat. She's now going to serve a proper trial on the Sept of the Baelor, which is where Ned Stark's head got cut off. So, yeah, it's not looking so great for her.
I'm hoping it's not the end of Franklin Clegane. It seems like kind of a silly way to just bring him back and build him up as like this big important thing, and then the trial by combat not happen, which was seemingly his purpose. Or I'm hoping there's something else there, but I don't really have a lot of confidence anymore that there will be.
Well, I feel like he's going to have some sort of purpose to serve at some point, other than just being a mad killing machine. Otherwise, why keep him around, I guess. But I don't know. We'll see. Now, did any of you guys have any other thoughts on the scene here with Cersei?
Yeah, I have a fan theory that I don't know if it's going to happen due to the prophecy and everything. I think that Cersei is either going to kill Tomlin or be responsible for killing him, and that's the tragic part of her arc. Because you have this really interesting, consistent plot point that Cersei's a terrible human. In the text of the books, like, I mean, I don't dislike her, like, hate her like I do other characters in this show, but the one thing that is, like, her thing is that I will die for my children. I love my children. They are the reason I exist, blah, blah, blah. And I think this is the last thing that can be taken from her, is the fact that she could kill her own child.
Right. Kind of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. I mean, she knows that the last child is going to die, and I think that this would complete that prophecy, as well as totally just give this really weird sense, like this revenge tragedy stuff. I don't know. I think it could carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great idea. Again, kind of hinting at that almost Shakespearean tragedy with the cyclical nature of the prophecy, and and I think it's a natural place for her arc to end. Really, I mean, because she is her whole mindset is just so self-destructive. It is a constant battle of her trying to kill her enemies before they can get to her, and she's right now she really doesn't have any friends other than Franklin Clegane and I guess Qyburn. But other than that,
and Jaime, but he's not there.
So I mean, it would be fitting, and certainly be. I think it would be an interesting way to wrap her character arc. I don't know. I mean, we are, like I said, we are getting close to the end of the show, so that seems very feasible. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's a really interesting idea. I didn't think of it that way. I don't know if the show is necessarily going there, but I think that would be a really cool way to end her story arc. But I don't think I'm convinced that she'd be actually capable of doing that, just no matter what. I don't think I could ever see her making a decision to actually take part in killing her child. What I felt like was happening in the scene is I think Cersei's a goner. I think that if she doesn't die in episode 10 this season, I think she'll be dying very early in the beginning of next season. I think Tommen definitely betrayed her is going to be the way that she sees it. And I think she's on. I think her arc is over. I think she's going to be. I don't see how she can survive this trial at all. Now, her one ace in the hole has been taken from her, and I don't see her standing a shot.
I mean, I think Tyrion got out of it, right? I mean, she could potentially run away, but I believe my prediction at the beginning of this year is she wouldn't make it out of the season. She might make it out of the season, but I think her time is coming very soon. As far as Tommen goes, I don't believe she would purposely kill him. I do believe that through her carelessness, he will be a casualty of whatever revenge she's trying to have.
Okay, yeah, I could see that too. Like, it is her. I just can really see the poeticness of her being the cause of her last child's death, either purposeful or accidental, with whatever means she throws at it.
I was thinking that maybe the Sparrows would be responsible for Tommen's death, given that she gave them power. But I think that's less and less likely now that they're pretty much married to each other at this point, Tommen and the High Sparrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy, and I just think it would be very fitting for this woman who is so driven by rage and revenge to actually rem- take away her being responsible for that one thing she cares a lot about. It seems to fit that, again, the poetic nature of a revenge, a vengeful character like hers. Now, one other fan theory I wanted to throw out there was she has a word with Qyburn. She's all like, and this is one of those shorthand things that really frustrates me. Did you check on that one thing I asked you to tell you about? Even though we never saw her mention to him to look for that one thing. Did you see that? Did you research that one thing I told you to look into? Yeah, and it's still a thing. What do you guys think? I have a theory.
I mean, there's not much to think there. We have like nothing to go on.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head, Caleb. I think this is really bad writing. We don't have any evidence that we don't have any evidence or anything. We didn't even know this conversation took place. The only time we've even heard the birds mentioned from Qyburn is when we met them earlier this season. And I think I remember seriously saying something like, have your birds in every city. If anyone says anything against the Lannisters, I want to know about it. But nothing like where she told him to research some hidden thing or whatever. So I think you're right. This is really bad storytelling right now.
I think it's a wildfire. I know there's been no setup for it, but I'm thinking the visual cues we got from the flashes with Bran. And I'm thinking she's going to try and pull a Mad King, where I think she's going to find out there's still a lot of wildfire there, and in her vengeance is going to attempt to destroy the entire city. I know that sounds like a long shot, but that's all I got. And I just feel like, I know, Austin, you mentioned at the end of last season and the beginning of this season that you felt like she was going down, but she was going to take a lot of people with her. And for some reason, that idea just really stuck with me, because another character who was like that was the Mad King, and he did attempt to burn the whole city down. Okay, now we're in total speculation zone.
Yeah,
now.
like, I mean, it's because the writing is so shit that they can't actually, like, establish things that are going to happen earlier on that requires, like, effort and stuff, like plot.
Well, we can go ahead and move on to the Riverlands, where we got more cool fanficky stuff, like the Hound. He's back, and he is apparently the T-1000 all over again, just chopping off heads without blinking. Getting some fun dialogue for sure, as he axed a dude in the balls right before decapitating him. I mean, that was pretty cool, I guess. And then we find out that the dudes he was killing were actually outcasts of the Brotherhood Without Banners, as opposed to the actual Brotherhood Without Banners. And yeah, that's about it. It was a fun scene. It didn't really serve much of a purpose, but hey, we got one. That's cool.
I mean, this is why last week I said I really didn't like the Hound's return. I felt like that whole story of him being this peaceful guy all of a sudden and leaving the killing behind was just pointless, because now he's back to where he was when we left him, except for he's a little bit more alive than from where we left him. But yeah, I really don't like what they've done. I mean, it was fun in a sense to see him kill those guys, but that's all it did. And there doesn't seem like it's really going to be impactful at all that he's back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It would have been kind of cool if we had been teased at the Hound character while he was being peaceful, or somehow encountered him beforehand, or even had 1 or 2 episodes of him sitting in that village, with the people, to kind of get a better, like, to further establish believably that he had turned over a new leaf, right? Other than, there's a half an episode of him being with the people, and then he comes back and, yeah, instant killer all over again.
I think he was brought back specifically because they wanted to tie in the Brotherhood Without Banners. I think it's the only reason he exists at this point. I could be totally off there, but I think there's significance to the fact that they serve the Lord of Light, and that Jon Snow is considered like their savior. The Hound himself is inconsequential to the storyline. I think he's just a vehicle for it.
A vehicle, or more just fan service at this point? I'm really bitter. I'm just so bitter.
I think he's a vehicle. I think it was hard to tie in. They needed a character that had met the Brotherhood before. And right now that's Melisandre, the Hound, and Arya.
Well, okay. You're not wrong, but there are a lot of other ways they could have done that. A lot of
Sure.
other ways they could have done that. They could have used, like, again, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to do the whole, oh, one's better than the other. I'm just saying Brienne's entire book plot, which I think is better in the show, for the record. So I'm not going to criticize the show for not using her, but her entire arc in the book is exploring the Riverlands, looking for Arya and Sansa. I'm not saying they should have done that. I'm just saying if he was your vehicle, there were several other options available to them.
I think I'll say this. Look, you bring the Hound back. He introduces us to the Brotherhood Without Banners. Brienne is down in the River Run area, which I assume is where the Hound is. I think he's somewhere in there.
He's in the Riverlands, yeah. He's nearby.
It would be interesting to see those two get back together, kind of, not really get back together, but you know what I mean? Like, meet each other again after what had happened, and then her especially need the Brotherhood's help. I don't know. It would be the only way to save multiple kind of dead-end storylines.
Valid. I mean, it's just there's just
Game of Thrones has done that before. You take two negatives, you make it a positive. I always think back to season 4 when you had Stannis and Davos going up to the Wall, which, by the way, the Wall and Dragonstone were two of the bigger kind of snooze fests that year, or the 2 years. I generally like how in Game of Thrones, a lot of times, like, death usually means something, has a little bit of weight to it. They pretty much use it as a punchline in this episode. Like, it's not, I don't know. I don't feel like, again, this is the showrunners doing their own thing, but it doesn't feel like a death that George R. R. Martin would write per se. Because it was solely for comedic purposes. Whereas I feel like typically when even like minor characters die, like, it's not exactly painted to be like this really funny thing. I don't know. It's just an observation.
Had a pretty, I don't know if George wrote it before, but especially with the Hound chicken scene.
Oh no, he didn't write that scene.
It was purely like comedic deaths.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't though. No, it wasn't, because remember that was the whole scene where Arya went all like Darth, mumbling chants right before she stabbed a dude in the throat. Like, and that was supposed to be upsetting. At least I thought so. Yes, the Hound eating all the chicken in the room joke was funny, but like that, there was in that same scene there was a lot of weight where you saw Arya just kill this dude in cold blood in the most creepy way possible. So, you know, I don't know. It's just an observation. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree, and if you don't, that's fine. But speaking of the Hound and chicken, he makes a very clear establishment that he still wants some Westerosi fried chicken, because he says, you know, when he's over the campfire, he's like, "No, I prefer the chicken."
Again, fan servicey, but I enjoyed it. It's funny.
Yeah, that's about all that we got. That scene was just he's back with the Brotherhood. Now, if we want to move on elsewhere in the Riverlands, we can go back to River Run, where we get a scene Brienne and Jaime. But first, we have to touch on probably the funniest scene of the episode, which is where Bronn and Podrick meet back up. Just a great scene. Just a great scene. He's like, "You think they're fucking?"
Yes, I do think they're fucking. Thanks for asking, Caleb.
Reading Alex's mind.
Yes, you are.
I kind of forgot that Bronn and Podrick had like a sort of relationship. So that was actually kind of fun to see. I was like, oh yeah, they totally did have a relationship back with when he was Tyrion's squire. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of actually a cool moment for me just to remember that. It was fun.
Yeah, and remember, he was the one who pleasured all of those whores, right? Remember, that was kind of a nice callback, right?
Yeah, that one
like,
quick scene.
Super
there.
Penis.
Like, yeah, apparently so super he didn't have to pay the brothel. So that was something else. But anyway, I say all this to say, I've missed Bronn. Why has he not been here all season? He's the comedic relief this show desperately needs at all times. We do get a little heavier exchange between Jaime and Brienne, though. Although I did get a little chuckle when Brienne, again, Jaime kind of returned to a classic Jaime, where he's like, yeah, I found Sansa. He's like, Sansa Stark? Why would I just assumed she was dead? And I just kind of chuckled a little bit, right? Because that means he's intentionally sent her on a suicide mission. Just kind of, I don't know. I thought it was kind of goofy. I was like, wow, you asshole! You sent her on a mission you didn't think she could complete? Wow.
Trying to protect her.
Right. So it was a good bit, though. I wanted to hear what you guys made of this exchange between the two of them, though, because this was definitely, there was a lot more conflict because of the circumstances.
I think it was just establishing Brienne as someone who don't need no man, and then she has her orders, and she is a knight first and foremost.
Sure.
And that her loyalties really lie with the Starks, and she still very much values the promise she made to Catelyn. And despite Jaime contending that she's fulfilled her duties to Catelyn, Brienne does not feel that way. That she's still pretty loyal to Sansa and wants to continue serving her.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the scene. I think it was cool to get back to their relationship that, you know, when they were kind of a duo back in the early seasons. And you did get to see that Brienne does care about Jaime, even though
Yes,
she's
they do care about each other. Sorry.
even though she's going to put her honor, even though she's going to put her honor first, as Austin said, she does care about Jaime, and in some ways, that might be the character she cares about the most, which is kind of interesting. But it was a nice scene, but story wise, I don't feel like it did a whole lot. But it was a cool moment to see.
Everyone already knows my feelings on this subject, so we don't really need to talk about them anymore.
There was some real tension there, guys. There was the chemistry was real.
Tension there.
There was a point where they were looking at they were very close to each other in the face. You know, the way the camera cut it, you're like, oh boy, are they going to go for it? Are they going to go for it? And Brienne just decided not to go for it.
That's fine. I think if this actually happened in the show, I'd be really disappointed. There are some ships that you have that you just don't want to see depicted because you know that it will be ruined. And this is, I think, probably one of them.
Well, and then it would be interesting with I mean I feel like it wouldn't necessarily be fitting for Jaime's character where he's at on the show right now.
Right. Yeah. No.
He is still totally devoted to Cersei.
Right. Unlike what you said that book Jaime is about right now. And I think we're going to transition into talking about
that. Yeah, we'll head that direction for sure. By the way, I just want to point out this is probably my favorite scene of the episode. Just
likewise.
Just to see old friends who, due to circumstances, are at odds with each other. There's something really sad about that makes for good TV, but it's really sad. I'm like, oh, why can't we just be friends? But yeah, moving on, we see that obviously Brienne can't convince the Blackfish to surrender. The Blackfish is stuck in his ways. He is not giving up for anybody. And even though he's like, yeah, I admire you, I think Sansa's got a good cause, but nope, I'm sticking to my homeland. We're not going to go anywhere, which means Jaime and Brienne are apparently at odds. Now, here was something I was really unclear about. I don't feel like they were ever necessarily at odds. She seemed like more of a neutral party, and that she was a neutral party in this entire situation. So I don't understand why she felt like she had to run away, because I didn't feel like she was necessarily anti-Jaime or the crown in this moment exactly.
If they were supposed to establish that, they did say in that big sequence that, Brienne and Jaime are going to fight each other whenever the chips go down or what have you. But I still didn't think that ever she had her life in danger.
No, and I think they wanted you to feel that way because of her loyalty to the Starks, and the Starks still being an enemy of the state, basically. I didn't ever feel like Jaime. She didn't have to run away necessarily from Jaime, maybe from the Lannister army, but maybe she would have been killed, within the melee. But Jaime would have let her go. Jaime wanted to go after her. Pod's just sailing, like as Benioff and Weiss say, kind of after the thing. He's just kind of really lazily rowing down the river. Like he could have gone and got her. It wouldn't have been that difficult.
That's the thing. I just didn't feel like it was necessary for them to run. But whatever. So Brienne can't convince the Blackfish, which means that Jaime has to get a little wiser here. Now, I thought that my next favorite scene was the scene between him and Edmure Tully. That was a really awesome scene.
That was my personal favorite.
Probably Jaime's best, I'm a badass scene he's had in quite a while. Like a good long while. Like I think back to season 3 when he was a wisecracker. or even season 2 when he was a prisoner. Like it's been a good long while since we've had he had that sort of confidence when talking to somebody.
It
which
was good
awesome.
because I felt like he had a little Tyrion in him in this scene. Like I really did. Because I didn't believe he was going to do any of the things he said he was going to do, but he was trying to get to a peaceful resolution as quickly as possible. And if he has to threaten to launch a baby with a catapult, then that's going to happen.
That was a pretty epic threat, by the way. I'm just going to throw that.
It was. And for some reason, Edmure believed him because, well, I'd say for some reason, but it's because of the reputation that Jaime still has. I think he is not that person at this point anymore. But he's using that reputation that he has to his benefit.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to talk about too, Austin. He starts off the scene trying to be, cordial in a sense with Edmure Tully. And then when Edmure talks about how he views him, he then uses that to get Edmure. He realizes he can use that to use Edmure as a tool to get him in there and get what he wants in the most peaceful way possible. But he did start off trying to be, kind. He was offering him clothes and food at the beginning, and then Edmure sort of refused and was sort of a jerk to him, and that's when he said, okay, well, if you're going to look at me this way, then I'm going to use that so that I can just get this whole thing over with, because as he pointed out, all he wants to do is get back to Cersei.
Correct. And again, it was pretty genius because he figured out pretty quickly that there was no way he was going to change Blackfish's mind, so he had to appeal to Edmure, who, I mean, it was a pretty brilliant move, just appealing to, oh, you still have a life to live. You've still got a wife and a kid, and your troops still have families they want to live for, versus your uncle, who literally the only thing best he can hope for is to die a cool death. So I thought it was a pretty brilliant move, and that's a huge moment of triumph for him. On the show, most certainly, and in the books as well, because for him that's a moment where I'm not gonna I try to avoid doing the whole comparison contrast, but it's one of my favorite moments, quite frankly, for that character at large, because for him it's a big moment of he establishing identity outside of his Lannister heritage. He feels like, and again, they even hinted at it on last week's episode when the Blackfish calls him Kingslayer. Just carries that weight, like, oh well, you're just a guy who stabbed the king in the back, and you've lived your entire life off your dad's name, type of thing. And for him, it was a big moment of, oh well, actually, I'm not just a pretty boy who can fight with the sword. I'm actually pretty smart. And so I think that was really great. And it was a pretty brilliant move, sending Edmure in to surrender the castle. Genius.
I mean, it was kind of like a Trojan horse moment, almost. Really,
definitely, yeah.
Just like a trap sent right in, and even the Blackfish obviously knew it, but. The men around him were believed that they had to, support Edmure or whatever. But that's what it felt like to me. It was almost just a Trojan horse.
Well, and he's playing their honor against them, because these are, again, still very honorable people. Well, you serve your lord first, right? And their lord is Edmure and not the Blackfish. So Jaime kind of used that against them.
Here's my problem with the whole kind of sequence of events here. Why does Edmure give a crap about this baby that he admittedly said he'd never even seen? I mean, it's his kid, I get it, but he's never seen the baby ever. Why does he have such attachment to it? Like, that threat would mean nothing, I would think.
I don't know. If you're dead, I feel like you're going to have this inherently you're going to want to protect your child, even if you've never met them.
Does he feel like a dad, though? He's never seen the child. I assume he had sex that one night and never saw anybody ever again.
I mean, like, it's the whole. I mean, okay, let's table the discussion of dadhood or what have you. But the fact of the matter, if you're going to look at just pure cold facts, is that this guy eventually will need an heir, and if this child is male, which isn't it?
Yes.
Then that's his ticket to having lineage. For, so that his family name can be carried on. Doesn't matter if the guy actually has feelings for his child, which I think he does, but I think it's even trumping that is, why would you waste the life of a child that's going to be carrying on your family name? Because these people are all very strategic. He's if he forfeited his child's life over something that isn't necessarily his real battle, then I mean he's up shit creek.
And that's kind of where I'm going, actually, is I don't think I don't think he actually cares about the kid that much. I think Edmer has a bigger plan in mind. Like, I think he wanted to preserve the lives of these people who are loyal to him
Well,
because he
both.
has plans for them later.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. I mean, it's for his family and for the sake of his men. Like, it's not. And I guess the whole point is, the whole point that Jamie was trying to relay was that this is not just your life that's on your shoulders right here. This is the future of your house. This is the men in the castle and their future, and the future of their families. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it really matters. I mean, so yes, obviously the use of baby is certainly there to draw an emotional reaction from both him and the audience. But the whole point of that scene is there's more than, it's just, this is bigger than just you.
So I guess my question to you is, what do you think Edmer has in mind? Is he planning to like run away, have a rebellion? But
Nah,
he's probably gonna be locked up again. So
no, I think he's gonna stay right where he's at.
Mostly, if I was in his position, I'd just be a mean, spiteful person. Like, fine, siege the castle.
Well, mostly because
I'm
gonna be a smug book reader right here and say that
I'm a smug book reader.
Yeah, because I'm actually a pretty well. We're not gonna get into that. I feel like I'm pretty tame compared to a lot of folk.
A lot of people, like, I've told, a friend of mine has told a story about her and her boyfriend who mansplains the books to her while she watches the show. So he could be very, very worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, this is the show using that very shorthand thing I've been talking about all frickin' season long. And what it is there's actually there are significantly more clear terms that are laid out there. I don't want to get into that, but it's pretty clear that he's going to be able to retain lordship over his own home. That's part of the deal. But the show doesn't tell us that. So I understand your confusion, I guess. So I don't say that to be smug. I say that to say that I feel like this is the show not doing its job quite as well as it could, I guess. Because
but then that's what it should have been laid out as, like, the offer, not I'm going to launch a baby into a wall.
Well, again, they should have had, this would have been great over 2 or 3 episodes where they kind of, like, maybe you lay the groundwork.
He needed that. Just the one conversation where he's like, look, you're going to do this because I'm going to give this to you. That would have been great. That'd been a perfect Lannister negotiation. Been perfect.
And I think that would have fit Jamie a little bit better almost in some ways.
Then appealing to, I'm going to kill your baby.
I'm going to launch your baby through a catapult.
Into a wall. Or whatever. Yeah, I agree. It's, again, I'm just going to keep reiterating how much I think this episode sucks. So I think this is just another bullet point establishing that it's true.
Let's go ahead and get on to the next bullet point I want to shit on, which is, okay, so the Blackfish helps Brienne and Pod get away. Okay, again, I'm really confused as to why they need to get away. But okay, whatever. I'll run with it. Then they get away. The Blackfish, who has family in the north, who he can help when he knows he's going to lose, is like, nah, I'll just go get killed. Literally, that's what he says. I haven't had a good fight in a while. I'll just go get killed. Runs in there and apparently dies off screen. Now, we have not confirmed this, but Game of Thrones is running on thin ice with me in off-screen character deaths after Stannis Baratheon, okay? So I'm not putting this past them to kill the Blackfish off screen. That's dumb and awful storytelling, but apparently that's what happened.
I mean, I don't care whether he died or not. The dude's only had like 10 minutes of screen time throughout the entire series. He's inconsequential to me.
He shouldn't be, though. That's the whole... You understand, like,
his part to run back into the cat. Like, what are you accomplishing? Nothing. To hop in the boat and live for a little longer. Maybe you can do something useful. That's all.
Yeah,
like,
so...
whether he's dead or not, I don't care. He's useless to the story right now. Don't care.
So, smug book reader, did you say what actually happens to this dude?
Yeah, he runs away. He gets away. Like, they try to siege him and he runs away. He gets away. And because that's the whole thing. And again, Austin, I don't want to get too heated on you, but this is I'm going back to those character assassination things. When you're adapting characters, I understand there are a lot of times you have to compact character arcs. Sometimes you combine multiple characters into one character. And there are changes that have been done. But the thing is, all in all, when you name a character Brendan Tully the Blackfish, that does carry some weight to it, okay? And when he does things like this that are extremely out of character, because two things about the Blackfish. One, he's an epic badass. He was one of the most epic warriors to come out of Robert's Rebellion. He's an epic badass, okay? And the show has, again, because, and I understand, he's not a crucial character to the story. He's really just really cool to have, although he is particularly crucial in this storyline. We never got to see him do anything awesome. One, okay, whatever. Two, though, the fact that he runs in there like a moron is a huge character. Because he's also very intelligent. The show has made him look like a moron a couple of times. So and then it also raises my question: what was the point of him walking out of the red? Why not just kill him at the Red Wedding? Because he was pretty much this whole story arc was pretty much pointless. This whole going to River Run. So I would have rather, if the show was going to waste the character, might as well have killed him 3 seasons ago.
I think that like Game of Thrones particularly has been doing this season like a disservice to these minor characters and even major characters. Like this is the 3rd instance of a character that we know is smart and smarter than this, and they do something stupid and gets themselves hurt or killed. And I'm thinking of Tonks,
Asha, the wildling.
Asha, again, same thing. Arya, like I wasn't on last episode, but I was so mad because that is such an un-Arya thing to do, to think, gee, the faceless men are totally not going to be after me, and this cute little old granny isn't just going to stab me in the gut.
Especially when I'm running around the city telling everyone I want to go to King's Landing and throwing gold around.
Yeah, like a dipshit.
Also, in the episode directly before it finished with her hiding in a cave ready to fight it out, like the episode beforehand.
Yeah, like it totally contradicts what the episode before set up. And then we have this thing with, I'm gonna die because I haven't had a good sword fight in a while. You know, like, I mean, it feels like they're just really trying to wrap up, quote, loose ends because they're trying to get this shit done in like a couple more seasons. And they just don't feel like they can just leave a character either in a nebulous state, because that makes people feel uncomfortable. They either need to be alive and happy, alive and tortured, or dead. They can't just be like, oh yeah, they just went and had a life outside of Westeros.
Well, that's my problem with the season so far. You have this breakneck pace, which is kind of fun in the moment, especially. Oh, cool stuff's happening. But here's the thing: it's a huge disservice to a lot of our characters, a lot of them, because it feels like they go from making decisions that seem organic to who those characters are to making decisions based on what the plot needs them to do, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Especially, Arya is a particularly big proponent of this because she is a major character making really boneheaded decisions. I mean, just straight up boneheaded, not uncharacteristically dumb decisions. Again, and the thing is, it takes away from the character of the Blackfish. Yeah, he's not a big player. He's not. But like, he's a very cool character, and it's okay to have small, cool characters who do cool things. And you know what? If he had gotten away and ran and we never saw him again on this show, I would have been cool with it.
I would have been cool with it.
I would have been happier than him just running in there like a moron and apparently dying. Maybe it's a fake out.
I mean, I also did think of that in your notes, like looking at, Caleb's note says, Blackfish helps Brienne and Podrick run away, then dies off screen. WTF. That's what Caleb's notes say. And yeah, I mean, part of me is kind of calling BS on this. Like, what if that was a fake out? He's going to team back up with Edmure. And
why would that soldier lie? Like, that doesn't make that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. I'm just spitballing to make this show less stupid.
No, exactly. And I thought the same thing. I was watching the second time last night, Alex, and I was like, well, maybe the soldier lied. And I actually paid attention. But it's definitely it's not even a Tully soldier. It was definitely a Lannister soldier who said that.
In Lannister armor. Yeah,
I was like, son of a gun.
Dead for sure. I think you can count on that one.
It's so dumb.
I said that about the Hound, and he should have never came back. So,
well, and that's the thing. We'll see how the Hound turns out. I mean, I'm glad he's back on one hand, but man, they need to do something with him
as a character. But I thought he should have stayed dead.
I need him to do something. That's all I need.
Arya should have stayed blind, but here she is, not stabbed in the gut anymore, apparently, and has sight.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, we can go ahead and move on to Arya. By the way, if you want to, we'll switch things around. We'll close out. So, guys, we'll go ahead and close out with Marine last. Which, oh god, the second time it pissed me off way more. We'll get to that though. So I'm glad you brought up Arya, guys, because we get this, and apparently she's still wounded, and she seeks. Now it was funny because last week we were like, yeah, she has nobody to go to, literally, except for this actress she shared one scene with, where she's like, "You're a cool person."
It at least made sense as far as like someone she'd met before.
It wasn't totally out of realm possibility, I guess.
Well, and they did share an emotional scene together. Like, she seemed like she really admired Lady Crane, and Lady Crane did seem to kind of like, she was encouraging her in that original scene to.
Yeah, Lady Crane followed her advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she came back and saved her life. She didn't know that Arya was the one that was trying to kill her in the first place, but to her, from her perspective, it may have been her, like, saving her life or whatever too. So I can understand her going back there.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind, like, when was the last time that Arya has seen Catelyn Stark? Season 1?
Yeah, season 1.
Season 1. And she died in season 4.
3.
Right? 3? Okay, so Arya has been without a mother figure in her life for several years. And, she's been on her own, having to rough it, growing up fast, getting tortured, camping in the woods with the hound. Like, all this shit has just been happening to her. And for once in her time in, Westeros, she has someone like a mother figure taking care of her. And I think that she became naturally attached or attracted to the persona of Lady Crane because she sees the tenderness that she portrays when acting as Joffrey's mother in the play within the TV show. So I can see the connection a lot more readily there. And then, of course, because it's Game of Thrones, any parental figures snuff it immediately. So I was like, well, she's going to die. And she did. So there you go.
And apparently she just slipped off a stool. Such a tragic accident,
Very
guys.
painfully.
And like snapped her back in half. Oh my God.
Everywhere.
But Arya, who's bleeding out, apparently still has it in her to either be Jason Bourne or Altair from Assassin's Creed.
I'm very impressed.
She can apparently run just hard enough to trip and fall and knock over the cabbages from the cabbage man who goes, "My cabbages!" Where was that? I was disappointed.
I was laughing.
Yeah, a lot of people were real upset about this sequence. I cared less than I think most. I don't know how long Arya was sitting in that bed. Could have been a couple days. Apparently long enough for her wound to kind of seal just a little bit. And then the fact that she's under threat of death, adrenaline kicks in and you run. You can do more things. Was it believable what she was able to do having been stabbed relatively recently?
No.
Probably not. But it was fun to see. It did bust open eventually as she started bleeding everywhere. I'm glad that finally happened because the whole time I'm thinking, man, she's really taking a lot of tumbles and nothing's happening.
Taking a lot of tumbles.
I was actually liked Arya's stuff this week. I actually think that was my favorite stuff this week. Now, to set that up with context, I agree with everything you guys have said that specifically with the Faceless Man, I think we talked about this last time Alex was on as well, that they have just not been very, they haven't done anything. They've been more of just an assassin group more than they have been this religious, mysterious group that we thought they were. So that has been really frustrating, and I have been really frustrated with Arya's story up to this point. It feels like the last 2 seasons haven't done a lot for her character. She's just going back to Westeros, and yeah, she knows some new tricks now, things like that. However, given all of that, and it is bad and all that stuff, it was really fun. For me, her being one of my favorite characters, most of the time I say that she is my favorite character. It was really fun seeing her do this and pull this off, and it was really exciting when she gets finally into the room and she cuts the candle off. And to me, I literally said out loud, "Wow, that was so smart," because I thought the show almost convinced me that she was going to die. And then part of me said there's no way she can die because then it's really bad storytelling. But sorry, I was just saying, emotionally, I actually really enjoyed it because it's it's over, we can move on now. So in some sense, I actually liked it, given all that other stuff is true.
Does that make it good? Does that make it good, though? Because you're like, oh, this is finally over. Which, FYI, I just want to point out, we've said that almost every episode this season. Where we're like, okay, finally, she's moving on. And then she doesn't. Almost every episode this season.
We have said that.
I'm not necessarily happy that she's moving. It's not okay, it's over that I'm happy. I actually really enjoyed watching it happen. And I really enjoyed the element of them training her while she was blind actually kind of came back to was what bit the why the waif fell. I thought that was actually kind of cool, and I mean, we haven't seen Arya do anything in a while, so it was just really fun to actually watch her.
I didn't care, and I didn't care because I knew that I knew 200% that she was not in any danger at all.
Yeah,
And-
but I agree with you. I agree she was not in danger. I also agree I liked these series of events. I hated everything leading up to this entire season. Everything leading up to this particular sequence was garbage.
I disagree. I actually really liked the plays, by the way.
Those were good. Those weren't bad. I did enjoy those. Those were fine. I'm just talking about like her interactions with the Faceless Men and kind of the way she's developed so far this season has not been great. This sequence was good. I am excited for her to move on. I really want her to leave Bravos and just go do something else.
2 seasons, guys. 2 seasons of
and that's
pointless.
what we talked about this a little bit earlier. I really feel like she would have done well had they done something like they did with Bran, where they put her on a shelf for a season, come back next season, have 2 episodes or something with her just with the Faceless Men and just kind of hit, okay, she's got her side back, she refuses to do this killing, she leaves. That's it. That's all you needed. And it'd been fine. But the show felt the need to shove Arya in her face constantly, and it didn't do her character any service, and it didn't do the audience any service.
The one problem that I do have with that is that they've been building her up to go to Bravo since season 1 with Sirio, and since like
Jacqueline Hagar, Sirio, Jacqueline Hagar in season 2.
Yeah,
and last season could have been condensed down, and then you could have skipped a season and just done like 2 episodes or something, or just either way, it was about 8 episodes too much Arya.
But that's what I mean, though, is it felt like Bravos was supposed to be this huge moment for her, and it wasn't. Like So that is one thing that is extremely frustrating about her storyline, is that what they seem to be building up to for 4 seasons didn't mean that much in the end.
You know what I hate is that Arya is also one of my favorite characters, and I think that going back to either Austin's point or Daniel's point, I think it was Austin's point about talking about her being around too much and not being on the shelf. Like, I think that really hurt her because Arya, the showrunners and the writers know that Arya is everyone's secondary or tertiary favorite character, if not their favorite character. So they just were like, oh, we got to see what is going on with Arya this week. It's not like Bran, whose favorite character is Bran. Despite Bran being very interesting and cool, no one has Bran as their favorite character.
Actually, he is in my top 3.
I'm just saying that, like, he's not your favorite character, though. I'm saying, like, number 1. People put Arya more often than not on the number 1 slot.
Yeah, what number 1 or number 2?
Which is interesting. I didn't know this until we were talking about this before the show today. That people, I knew Daniel really liked her, but I didn't know it was like universally loved.
Oh no,
I've never had, like, she was always cool, but she's like, she's another kind of cool character. I felt about her like I felt about Braun or the Hound or somebody else.
No, go back to season 1 and anything up to season 4, honestly. She had great material every season, and what was cool was she was playing against the type. She was like the tomboy doing all sorts of cool stuff. And because she's a really fascinating character because she's still, at least for the first couple of seasons, still held on to this honor system that Ned Stark had ingrained in her, but still was also much smarter than Ned Stark because she knew how to navigate the kind of the complexity of the world. I mean, there's a lot of things about Arya that were really, really great, and the fact that she was the only kind of at the time the only like women lead who really felt like she was making progress,
right?
Until she got the Bravos.
Yeah, and so my whole point in summation is that we had her so much, it's like eating birthday cake every day, despite the fact I love birthday cake so much. If I ate birthday cake every day, I'd get sick of it. It's same thing with Arya. I had Arya cake every day and I got sick of her. So the time that she's like getting in this kerfuffle with the waif, like, I give no fucks. Like, I gave no fucks that she was getting chased, she might die, something like that. I didn't care. I was just like, can we please just make this over already? I don't care. And I'm surprised because she's been one of my favorites for so long. And I just think that she was just poorly handled this entire season and the last season too, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm of the same mind. She was never my number one favorite, but I mean, definitely top three, top three, top five, hands down. And she's a very popular character and a really great character. And the last two seasons have been a disservice to her. And no, like we were watching this, Alex, and I was like, yeah, I think I even said out loud, I was like, yeah, we all know she's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I was like, you know what I was most pissed off about? I was pissed off this was the last scene of the episode. I was like, well, this is a long sequence, and I'm not getting more Game of Thrones, and I'm ending it on this really shitty scene that I don't like. What you guys don't probably...
I was just going to say, this is the storyline that I would be a book snob on. Whereas Caleb's talking about the Jamie stuff, I'm a book snob on this storyline.
Well, the thing with the books, though, is at least the books are very opaque and vague about what's happening to her. So, like... the books do kind of do that, Austin. They do kind of shelf her a little bit. She has like 3 chapters I think a total of 4 chapters rather between book 4 and 5. 2 books. She has like 4 chapters. So
the blind stuff is way different in the book too.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my book snob story.
Yeah. But let's enough of that. Enough of the hating on the Arya. Let's go ahead and move on to the scene we're going to wrap on this week, which is Meereen. So looks like Varys is again. Hey guys. Did you know that Varys was about to go on a secret mission?
No.
I guess he is. I guess apparently he's going back to Westeros. I didn't have any inkling that this might be a thing, but I guess it's happening. Oh, and he's gone. Hey guys, Varys is gone. And then we go to a scene where Tyrion literally, okay, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy this, but I just want to put this on paper, okay? Varys decides he's going on a secret mission. Tyrion teaches Grey Worm and Melisandre how to drink and tell jokes. Dany shows up with Dragon. End episode.
So here's the deal with this. This probably should have been, and back to your point, and I will concede it here, about the pacing. Varys leaving should have been a scene. Tyrion bonding with Melisandre and Grey Worm would have been really nice had what immediately occurred after that not occurred.
Right.
If Dany had never showed up, you could have had a couple, a time where Tyrion has bonded with Grey Worm Melisandre, and they start to work together and solve Meereen's problems and really kind of become this like triumvirate of trying to get things done. But that's kind of all out the window now when Dany lands on the roof with a dragon. It would have been interesting to see how they dealt with an actual siege on Meereen by the Masters, at least for a little while.
One episode, guys. One episode. Come on.
I mean, maybe they don't even hit on it. Like, maybe they hit on it a little bit this episode, a little bit in episode 10, and then Dany comes back or something. That's fine, whatever. But you never really got to see them bond and do something with that. So, to your point, the whole drinking thing was pointless. It was really stupid. Didn't serve any purpose. This was all a vehicle to show Dany's back, and that was it. And it was funny how she did it because it was very representative of how it was delivered to us. It was kind of like you just got hit over the head with it as they were almost hit in the head with like bricks falling from the ceiling.
Mama's home, done.
She's here. This is it. And I could have sworn like it would have been really cool to have like the Greyjoys sail in and
right?
help out with the battle. And maybe that still will happen, but that's how the Greyjoys really kind of gain Dany's trust and they start to work together. There's a lot of ways this could have gone, a lot of much better ways. The way they did it is kind of silly.
And unfortunately for Tyrion, she shows up in the worst possible time for him because the city's in the worst spot it could have been, and she sees that he might be the one who caused it. So he's not in a good spot either, unfortunately.
Well, no, it's weird because this whole scene was supposed to represent Tyrion being totally dead wrong, but we didn't have time for that to sink in at all. And she's like, oh, I guess you're wrong. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, wait, Daenerys is going to come in and save your ass. It was like almost a punchline instead of like an actual, oh my God, Tyrion was wrong about something.
Why were the Masters invading anyway? Like, they said they've come to reclaim their property. Okay, the Masters of Meereen, most likely their slaves are still in Meereen. the masters of the other cities, their slaves are probably still there. If they want to reclaim them, they're there. If they just wanted to come to Marine to fuck shit up, they could have done that at any point anyway. So I don't understand the timing of this kind of attack anyway. What was I don't buy the motivation of they're coming to get their property.
Because the plot needed him to, Austin.
Like, he didn't have to make the deal. They could have cut that all out, the whole Tyrion failure thing. You know, and just been like, the masters are pissed. They want slaves back. They're gonna come attack. That was
like,
it.
Give us one. That's what I'm saying. Like, everything about this season just feels so rushed for no reason. Like, it's so weird because it feels rushed, but at the same time, I don't feel like anything's actually happened in Marine.
That's the problem. It's not. I contend it's not rushing. Rushing isn't the problem. It's decisions.
It is rushed though, because there was no establishing scenes for a bunch of these subplots.
Right, because they used the scenes that they had in like a totally stupid way. They had a lot of dead end scenes. Had they used those scenes to actually do something of substance, it'd have been fine. There was plenty of time, screen time, to establish what was going on. They didn't use it in that way.
Whoops. Good on you, Benioff and Weiss. Good on you guys. Well, I don't have much more to say about this. I just want to go ahead and wrap up because it makes me angry and vicious. Let's just go ahead and move on. It's pretty clear none of us liked this episode, and for me, this really does speak to the whole season, which for me has been a big question mark. I've not been sure about this season. I've enjoyed parts of it, but I've been very unsure about the season. But this is really establishing for me or sealing the deal that I don't like this season. Austin, so I want you to present the analysis we kind of talked a little about here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point of the episode, and whether or not you agree with it or this is the direction they should have gone, I think what they were trying to say was that in the world of Game of Thrones, everybody's always going to be who they truly are. The Hound goes back to killing like he always had. Jaime is still kind of a ruthless asshole like he was prior to any kind of soul searching that he did, and Arya is not no one. She is still very much Arya Stark, which she proudly declares at the end of the show this week. So we see a definite theme, I believe, in this episode of you are who you are, and there's really no changing that.
That's a good reading.
I think that is apparent in the reading. I think I don't think your reading is incorrect. I have significant issues with that particular philosophy. I mean, like, I could write a fucking, I don't want to go, I could go on a real bad not even a fanboy rant, just an angry rant about why I think that's a problematic ideology. And it for me, if that's the case, and we'll continue to see how the show plays out, it really is a lot more nihilistic than George R. R. Martin is, because the books aren't like that at all. And remove the whole joke about the snobbish book reader thing aside. If this is the angle the showrunners are approaching, at the end of the day, I will think significantly less of this show. I will think significantly less of the show, because one of my favorite parts about Game of Thrones is that I feel like it encapsulates human nature in a way that very few other works nailed down. And my personal philosophy tells me that's not true. Some people don't ever change. That is true. No one ever changes is bullshit. And it's very nihilistic and revelatory in nihilism. And if the showrunners think that I can't change their mind, if that's the direction they decide to take the show in, I think that's upsetting and a huge disservice to the books, because, again, George R. R. Martin does establish that, yes, some people don't change, but Jaime Lannister is a prime example of a character who changes, and I don't want to get too spoiler heavy in case they decide to make a last second change in the season, but I'll tell you what, where he ends up at the end of the storyline we just witnessed is in a much different spot.
I think the Jaime scene was, to your point, some people don't change. This kind of fits a little bit with my worldview. I tend to believe that people don't change drastically, that you're pretty much who you are and you strive to be the best you can, but at your core, you're who you are and you try to fight against that constantly. But in Jaime's case here, I think we're not seeing him just going back to who he always was. I think it's a bit of a red herring here. I think he very much still has changed the way he looks at things, but he's still using who he is as a tool at times.
I think he's using who he's perceived to be. I don't think he's necessarily using who he is. I don't go as far as Caleb to say that they've completely changed Jamie's character. I think he's just, I mean, people, and I would agree with Caleb in the sense that if that's the angle that the show is taking, I would really be frustrated with the show. However, I don't think that's what they're doing. I don't know if that was necessarily intended. I think that Austin's reading is not, like Caleb said, not incorrect, but I don't know if that's necessarily what they want us to believe, because up to this point, they've shown us a different story. So, I don't know. On the Jamie specifically, I think he's more of using his perception of who people think he is than who he is himself. I don't think it's necessarily going all the way back to who he was in season 1. I don't think the show went that far with his character.
I don't think your reading of what the text is saying is incorrect, but I do have problems with it, and I don't think it's fair to make a judgment call until we've seen the season or the show as a whole really finished. All right. Well, none of us have anything else to add, I think we'll go ahead and wrap out the show. Now we want to, here in a moment, we are going to go ahead and tease next week's episode, The Battle of the Bastards. That title. Ugh. We'll get into it in a second. But first off, I also, as always, want to thank our special guest, Alexandra Bohannon, for joining us this week.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure, ma'am. And I also want to remind you, if you want to talk to us more here on the Cast Beyond the Wall, you can find us at facebook.com/Good Trash Media, or on Twitter at good_trash. And we do work very, very hard to put out a lot of really great content on Good Trash Media for you guys. So if you're a big Game of Thrones listener and you've really liked the conversation we've been having this season and want to contribute, I really hope you'll consider going to www.patreon.com/GTM. We recently covered a film festival and have been cranking a lot of content out on the website. And one way you can really, really help us out as we continue to do that on top of our normal stuff like Game of Thrones, we just consider giving as little as $1 a month, guys. $1 a month. I can't get a small fry at McDonald's for $1. So think about giving us a small fry, donating a small fry a month to us. Or if you feel more generous, you can give more. And we do have a lot of really cool rewards that you will receive depending on how much you give. We've got stickers. You get to pick a movie for us to talk about, all sorts of cool stuff. Just go ahead and check it out at patreon.com/GTM. All right, let's go ahead and briefly talk about next week's episode, The Battle of the Bastards. This is it, guys. This is the big battle. Ramsay Bolton.
Of the Bastards, I think.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Ramsay Bolton versus Jon Snow. Neither one of them have any sort of legitimate claim to this throne, by the way, at all, for the record, per Westerosi law. But yet we're going to see them have two armies facing off against each other. It appears that Ramsay's going to have the larger army because Jon Snow doesn't have much, apparently. What do you guys think? Are you pretty excited about this episode?
I think the title is terrible.
It sounds like a giant piece of fan fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, if the people within the world of Westeros, if that's what they call it, then yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem like to be that great of a title. But I could see them calling it that. Like they called it the War of the Five Kings. I could see within the realm of the world them calling it this. That's all I have to say about the title.
Just in general, the episode, though.
I mean, based on, and this is kind of a criticism again of the current episode, but based on what we saw in the trailer for the next episode, it looks like this is going to be only the battle episode 9, where that's all that we have, no other storylines, which I think is exciting. I think when they do those, we had that in season 2 with Blackwater, and then at the Battle of the Wall as well. So I think that has been effective in the past, and so I am excited to see I'm excited to see it. I think that can be a lot of fun. However, I think overall conversation about the season, they've set themselves up to have a really, really strange episode 10. I think a lot they've set up a lot of storylines that haven't finished yet, and I don't know if they have enough time to fit all of the resolution into episode 10. So while it'd be cool to see one episode only telling the story of this battle, I'm really worried about the resolution for the season because of that. So, yeah.
I'm just over it. I feel so sad to say that, but I am just so # over it.
Yeah, I'm kind of of the same mind because the problems with the season frustrated me, and the thing I like most about the big event battle episodes is, particularly with Blackwater, less so with the battle at the wall, was that you had people on both sides you're rooting for. There was a certain more ambiguity and like really complex battle within yourself. You're like, I want Tyrion to win, but I want Joffrey to lose. I want Davos to make it out alive, but I sure as hell hope Stannis bites it. Versus this, where it's pretty clear. I don't think there's anyone that we care remotely about inside the wall. Versus, Rickon's a prisoner, okay, who's probably
right.
because it's Game of Thrones, they're probably going to execute him in some brutal fashion. But I mean, it just feels kind
they're
of
gonna flay him.
That's what I mean. They're gonna kill him in some brutal way, like flay him or whatever. I mean, just to be mean, that's what'll probably happen. And then I think it's gonna be a pretty run of the mill battle. I'm sure it'll be great spectacle. I'm sure it'll look great. I'm sure it'll be well choreographed, all that. But the thing is, Game of Thrones at its most interesting is not about good versus evil. So when you have a battle that's about good versus evil, doesn't really feel like Game of Thrones. And outside of that, I don't feel like they've done a great job at setting this battle up really at all. I still feel like I still feel like Jon Snow and them rallying soldiers needs at least 2 more episodes, at least.
I mean, there's not much to say here. I think it's just it's going to be a big, long battle episode. It'll probably have a build up, a little bit of some additional forces coming in.
Littlefinger.
We'll probably have Littlefinger. I haven't totally given up hope on the Brotherhood Without Banners yet, but I don't know how they make that work. I'm kind of hoping Brienne kind of comes through in some way. There's plenty of time throughout an hour-long episode to make that happen, but we'll see. I'm not sure if it's going to or not.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're not really as stoked about episode 9 as you'd think we should be. But here we are. Season 6 going into episode 9. All just kind of like, okay, all right. It's episode 9. I guess let's go ahead and do it.
It's not a surprise, right?
No.
We've had Hardhome. We've had lots of things.
We had the mountain versus the Viper. You had season 3, the Red Wedding.
Even the Wall. We knew the battle at the Wall was coming, but we didn't know what it was going to look like. We didn't know what their forces looked like, Mance Raiders and stuff. We didn't know how it was going to happen. This one, I feel like there's been tons of build up for it. We know exactly how it's going to play out. We've already seen a battle at Winterfell once before with Stannis' army. So,
Right. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you there, Austin. We'll have to find out how that goes when we return next week, when we turn to go Beyond the Wall.